Hey guys, welcome back. What an exciting time. We're getting going with our video generation stuff, which is great. We've got the Moki installed here in our last video. Now we're going to be working on the VideoGen pack, which is going to allow you to use AnimatedDiff to create cool stuff like this. This is actually created with Flux here. We're going to be using our Moki over here to make cool stuff like this. Again, our stable video diffusion so that we can be making cool sci-fi and beautiful different things. We're going to actually go into a bit of our ControlNet as well, which is going to show you, it looks something like this. We're going to be able to make depth maps, that's what that's called, so that we can actually make different versions of the same thing. Very cool, and just making good stuff. And of course, this is going to be found over here on the Patreon site, which is at patreon.com/CogniBuild. And this is free for all of our farmhand members over there, or if you just want to get it as a one purchase, you can do that. But we're going to walk through this, get you guys creating cool stuff, because really this is satisfying. And with what we're going to be going through today, there's a lot. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you a lot of different stuff. I'll try to section it out a bit. My mind is so scattered sometimes. I'm going to try to organize it for you, and but you're going to be learning a lot. There's a lot of cool stuff, and we're going to be using the Swarm UI interface that we installed in the last video to do this. So pay attention to what's going on, and guys, it's going to keep you busy for the next few weekends, certainly. Okay, this really is pretty cool stuff. So before we do that, though, please do go ahead and like the channel and subscribe, to the channel, hit the notification, all that kind of stuff. And it's Thanksgiving. I don't know if you guys, people send out Christmas cards. You ever send out a turkey card? Well, of course you haven't. No one does that, but we should start doing it. Send out a turkey card saying Happy Thanksgiving, and let me tell you about Get Going Fast. And you know what, on a side note, they have now started allowing us to actually gift subscriptions to Get Going Fast. So if you know somebody that is wanting, that you think would really enjoy the site, go ahead and get them a month of subscription. And I'm telling you, the more people we get involved in this, the better it is, because then we got more people. They're building more stuff for more people. More people are creating cool things. So I really do appreciate you for being part of that and spreading the word. Okay, lastly, I just want to mention really quickly, come join us on our Discord. We have a pretty good Discord channel over here that we use, and here there's not a lot of us, but we do have fun. Okay, we've got bots on here, so you can be generating images, chatting with different bots, and of course we've got troubleshooting sections. We've got music. Come over here, listen to some music with us, just hang out. It's a pretty fun place to be, and we basically are working on AI all day long. So you're welcome to be a part of that. You are so very welcome to come join. So, all right, with no more further ado, let's get on to the VideoGen pack and learning how we can make some really cool stuff. Yo. All right, as we mentioned, we're going to do the VideoGen. So what you're going to need to do for this is you're going to have to get the pack from the Patreon site. Now, the Moki install that we did in the last video, you can just go download that if you want to, and that's going to get you going with your basic Flux and with your SD 3.5, which is really cool, and it can give you a comfy UI workflow that works inside of that. But to work here with this stable video diffusion, the animated diff stuff that we're going to be doing here, you do need the VideoGen pack, which you can get by just going to www.patreon.com CogniBuild. Gosh, sometimes I just can't type, I'll tell you. So you come over here and you can just click on collections, and then you got under here under member exclusive software, you can just click that and you'll be able to find it under here. So here it is, our VideoGen pack, and essentially all we're going to do is we're just going to click on this and we're going to download it to wherever we want to install our pack. Now, you're going to have to install the Swarm UI with it. That is the interface that we're going to be using. Here, let me show you what that looks like real quick. Okay, so we click over here. This is the Swarm UI installation that we're going to be using. So again, we installed this in the last video, and we'll have the option to go through this again. So if you don't have it installed, then we're going to go through step 1. Okay, if you do have it installed, we're going to skip straight to step 2, and I will show you what we mean by that. But first, let's pop on over to here. And okay, so here's where we have downloaded our installation pack from the Patreon site. So all we really need to do here is just go ahead and right click on it, and then usually you should have something that says extract here. So just extract it, and it's going to pop out these files. Now, guys, this is really important. I've had a few people that have had problems with this. Notice I've numbered these 1, 2, 3, which means you need to run these in order. Okay, if you just install the VideoGen pack and you don't have the first Swarm UI installed, it's not going to work. Okay, so let me show you over here. You can tell that it's not installed here because there is no folder called Swarm UI, but let me show you over here where it's already installed. You can tell here I've got my 1, 2, 3, but you see there's a folder here that says Swarm UI. Okay, so that tells me I've already installed it. If you already have installed it and you want to install the VideoGen pack, just click on the number 2, and that's going to drill down into here. Okay, and it's going to go here to where your DLB backend is, and it's going to go to where your Comfy is, and it's going to install everything in here. In fact, I want you to pay attention to that. This is the difference here with this is what's called your back end. Okay, this is what it's using for your VideoGen stuff. So Swarm UI has its own models. Okay, so you've got everything in here under the Swarm UI folder, but then it has a secondary thing. It's like you've got a box, and you've installed another box inside that box. Okay, that other box is your Comfy UI. So you click on that DLB backend. You'll notice here, this is your Comfy installation, okay? Right here. In fact, if you go to your existing Comfy UI installation, you're going to see the exact same thing. You're going to see Python embedded, Comfy UI. So it's just inside of here, okay? And then you'll go. But anyway, okay, all of that aside, the point is which one of these you click depends on if you've already installed the first one already, okay? So if you've already installed Swarm UI, just click on VideoGen pack. But let's go ahead and let's assume that you ain't done that. Notice there is no Swarm UI folder here. So we're just going to go ahead and click the first one, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like here real quick. We walked through this in the last video, but we'll kind of walk through it again here. You'll see what it does. It's going to go ahead and it's going to clone the Swarm UI, okay? If you don't do this, and you try to just install the VideoGen pack, you're going to get an error that says that there's no backend installed. So we go through this, okay? It'll rock us back over to our browser, and then we just got to go through this. We're going to click agree. Okay, now what we probably want to do here is don't just install. We want to click the customize settings, because what we want to do is we want to add a few things like models. So you pick whichever one of these you want. Okay, I don't know. Let's try Gravity Blue. I ain't done Gravity Blue yet. Click Next. Just yourself on this PC. Okay, and then now what we want to do is we want to click on this one for new users. Okay, Comfy UI. Now, if you already have a Comfy UI you want to keep on, then you can do this, but that's going to be outside of the purview of what we're looking at right now. So we're just going to click on this one, click Next. Now notice it's going to give us the option to download different models. So again, if you don't have a fast computer, probably stay away from Flex 1 Dev, because it's going to, not a fast computer, but a larger graphics card. Okay, because even with my large graphics card, it takes a while to load this one. You want to grab probably Flex 1 Schnell. That just means quick in German. And then grab this Stable Diffusion 3.5. How cool is that? Then you just click Next, and it asks you about your life choices. Are you sure? And we'll just say yes. Okay, and that's going to go ahead and install. It'll take a few minutes. Well, probably take a good 15 minutes or so, because it actually has to download the entire models, and it's going to be about 20, 30 gigabytes worth of downloads. It's a lot of downloads. If you don't have the space, just grab one model. Just grab the XL1 base, or if you want to play with this, you get rid of these and just do the one. You can do it however you want. Okay, but it's going to take a little bit of time for you to download those. So we're going to assume now that you've gone through all this, installed, it will pop up to your browser again with a screen showing it's loaded. But what we have to do once it's loaded is now install the VideoGen pack. Now it will be time to go to step 2. So let me show you what that will look like. One moment here. Okay, and now when it's done, you're going to notice that you have a Swarm UI folder. You're going to notice you have this workflows. This is going to be important because I'll explain a bit more later, but this is how we're going to use our animated diff. This is how we're going to use our stable video diffusion. And so we're going to rock onto this next step here, this VideoGen pack, because what this is going to do is actually going to download the models you need. It's going to download all the stuff to make sure that these things work. So same thing, what we're going to do is just click on this. Okay, and it's going to pop up a window. Now mine's already been installed, so it's going to give us some options that you probably won't have the first time you run this. Okay, so it's going to run up here. It's going to ask us, do we want to install 7-zip? We're going to put yes on that, okay, because that's going to help us to extract a file that we need. Now, okay, so mine says no newer packages. Once it installs, just click no. It loops back around. Okay, now this is interesting. It asks us, do you want to download the Flex Dev? Now, if you already downloaded it in the initial download that we did when we set up Moki, you're going to want to click no, because all it's going to do is it's just going to create another copy of it, but it's going to put it inside your Comfy UI. But you don't need to do that because the Comfy UI is still going to have access to the other. The reason this is here is if you installed Moki and you didn't, or not Moki, Swarm UI, if you installed the Swarm UI and you forgot to install the Flux, then you can go back there and do it. But if you've already done that, you don't need a second. So we're just going to click no. Okay. And we're going to click no on that because we did that as well. Now it's going to download some files that you have to have. Okay. Okay, well, pause this while this downloads, and I'll be right back. Okay, and now this is actually an important part of the installation here. So notice it's going to say, do you want to download all models, 10 gigabyte or base models? So when we're working with our animated diff and our stable video diffusion, it only can use stable diffusion 1.5 models. So I've cultivated, like, I think there's 4 in here. That would be the all. Otherwise, you get your 2 basic ones. One is like an anime one, and then one is Dream Shaper, which is really cool. So you can choose which ones of these you want to download. If you're worried about space, just hit the base. Okay. If you want to get them all and play around with them, do the other. And you can honestly go over to civitai.com and find other models that you want to throw in there, as long as they're SD 1.5 models, okay? But these are the ones I've cultivated because they turn out well. I'm going to press skip on here because I've got them downloaded already, but you would choose 1 or 2. So I'm just going to press 3, press enter. Okay, and then it's going to download this called the motion module. Okay, so the actually makes me wonder if I didn't download these already. So I might have to go back and get them. But the motion module is what's going to make it so that it goes from one image to the next, so you can get the person moving and doing all this kind of stuff. So you have to have this. Okay, and now it's going to download our ControlNet stuff. So there's a lot of different, I'm going to teach you one method here. Maybe we'll punch into a few of the other control methods, but like I showed you earlier, we're going to be using a depth map. Okay, and we're going to get some cool stuff here. Let me show you what that looks like real quick again. So a depth map looks like this. We can take a single image or a video and turn it into shades, and then this way we can use it to prompt the image generator to create it in different ways. So you notice here we've got the same thing here, but she's dressed in whatever, and then over here we're able to put her in more of a skimpier sort of thing if we wanted to, or we could put her in knight's clothes or whatever. But it's basically going to follow this. I mean, maybe you could put, like, say, a Superman cloak or whatever, because it's enough to know that there's something, right? But not exactly what. So that's what it was installing over there when it says it's installing the ControlNet stuff. Let's go back over here, see what it's doing. Okay, yeah. So it downloads a few different things. We've got a few different control nets that I'll show you how, we'll go into depth with the depth stuff, but there's a few others I'll point out. And then it's just getting the other stuff that we need to make sure that our images turn out good. So this is what the VideoGen pack does. It drills, again, this one, it drills into our folders. Let me pull it up again here. So remember, we install Swarm UI, and then it installs the back end, okay? The comfy stuff, and then it's drilling down into your models and everything for you, okay? Oh, that's why, okay, yeah. And, oh, let's go back to this. Yeah, I was sitting there wondering, like, I thought I'd already downloaded this stuff, but that's right, because it's installing it into that temp directory that I was showing you everything, but I don't have the back end installed, but that's fine, because I want you to see how this all works. When I'm done, I'm going to skip to my pre-install, but your guys's will just follow the exact same path. So it's going to download all this stuff. Okay, and let's just assume it's done, okay? So when it gets done, you're just going to get a message that says that it's finished, and then it says to close the server, okay, and restart. So what that looks like is you get over to, when it's done, it'll pop up something that looks like this, okay, your server. So all you're going to do with this is you're just going to go and close it, just like that. Simple, simple, simple pimple. All right. So then we'll go back to our File Explorer. Now in our File Explorer, let me make sure that it's popped up here so you can see it. Sorry, I get a little bit lost sometimes in the number of windows. Oh, now I've lost my mouse, so that's always cute. Hold on. Okay, and so once you're done, you'll be in here. You've got your Swarm UI. It's installed everything. Okay, we did our step 1, we did our step 2. Now all we got to do is do our step 3. So we're just going to click that. Okay, it's going to pop up a window, a terminal window that loads everything, and then it's going to go ahead and, my goodness, why is this not showing up? Hold on just a second. Okay, and that's going to pop up to our browser here, and now we are in. Now we've played around with this before in our last video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the Flex stuff, because so we've got our models down here. There's our Moki. So what we're going to do now, we want to get into the AnimatedDiff stuff. We're going to click on this comfy workflow, okay, and it's going to actually pop up, and you're going to have something that looks like this. Okay, so this stuff looks confusing, and the reason it looks confusing is because it is kind of confusing. But once you figure it out, it's not that bad. Essentially, you just start on the left side and it works its way through. See these wires? It's just like a switchboard, okay? You can't see where this purple thing goes. Well, we could drag this and follow. Oh, look, it's going all the way up to there. So pretty much over here is where we grab our models. This load checkpoint, we're going to pick a model. Now, what's cool with this AnimatedDiff stuff that we're going to do is we can actually start with the Flex stuff, so we can actually get some really high graphic stuff. I'm going to probably mostly use Dream Shaper because it's quicker than using Flex. But here on this basic load default, which you can always just get here by clicking load default, this is just a basic image generator. So up here where it says clip, text encode prompt, this is where you're going to put your what you actually want it to say. Okay, so this just starts with the default beautiful scenery, nature, glass bottle landscape. Down here, you're going to, and you notice it goes over here to this, what's called the sampler. It goes to the positive. So this is what we want. Now notice they've got another one down here, but whatever you go here, it's going to the negative. Okay. So everything flows into the sampler. You notice the checkpoint flows into the sampler. The conditioning flows in there, goes up into there. And then here's where you're going to set your width and your height. And that also flows into there. Now, if I move this, you can see the wires moving with it, okay? VAE is something that's done to the image afterwards, so when it's going to load up into here, when it's done, it's going to create the image, plop it into here, it's going to do some stuff to change it, and it's going to put it to the output. So if we went ahead, and now over here, this is one thing that's kind of wonky with this. This is our main thing, but it's hidden here, and that's really lame. So I guess we could hit that up button, make that smaller. Really what we want to do is just grab this and just drag it out of there, okay? And I guess we could we'll just keep it there for now. So then all you got to do is, this is just your basic image generation. You just click Q prompt. You're going to see it says Q size. Now I can use my mouse thing to scroll in and out, and look how fast it did that. It went ahead and created that. Now if I wanted to do it again in Flux, we'll use the Schnell. Let's give it a go. It'll take a little bit longer, but you'll see it. It starts here. You can see it's green, and it's going to flow to the next. See, it's loading it. That's why it's taking a while. So it flows there, flows to the sampler. Oh, but notice it's not going to come out good, and the reason is because when using Flux, we have to set the config to 1. So we forgot to do that. So you're going to get a crappy picture. That's fine. We'll just do it again. Set it to config to 1. Now the model's already loaded, so notice it went a lot faster. Now it gives us a nice picture, okay? And we can cue in on that, okay? We could do a picture of a cat drinking milk from a fishbowl. Another thing you can just do is press Control and Enter, and it'll go ahead and do the same thing as if I had pressed Q. And that's weird, it didn't get it very well there, but whatever. You can play around with that. Now the other thing is you can prompt stuff. You can prompt stuff up. You could do multiple ones in here. So I could go Q prompt, and notice the Q size is going up. If I want to get rid of this, let's actually zoom this in correctly here. Sorry, a lot of zooming in and out. My apologies. There we go. If I had a queue full of thing, I can hit here and go View Queue, and you'll see the ones that are pending, and then you can actually just cancel those out. Okay, so. But this is just your basic image generation. What we want to do is get to our animated diff. So we're going to click this load, and it's going to pop up a screen over here. Let's see if I can get that for you. Okay, and it's going to ask us, what we want. So we go over to our basic thing, and we're going to click on this workflows. Now notice we've got two. We've got SVD, that's the stable video diffusion. We've got animated diff. So we're going to go ahead and click animated diff, okay? And it's going to load up this workflow. So this is called a workflow because the work's flowing from one thing to the next. Now, when you first install this, you might get something that says that Depth Crafter isn't installed, and that is an error that it is installed, but I haven't been able to totally fix. What you would do in that situation is, let me go back to here. You would click on this button down here that says Manager, okay, and that's not in your normal installation. That's something that I added. Oh, you can't see it. So let's go back to here. Okay, and it opens up this Comfy UI Manager. Then what you would do is click Install Missing Custom Nodes, and it would bring up a list that says Depth Crafter. You just click them, and then there will be an Install button. It'll install it, and then you just restart everything, and it'll be fine. So again, everything is installed, but if it says something's missing, you just click on Manager. Then you click on Install Missing Custom Nodes, you pick it, reset it. Okay, so here we have, though, we are in this Comfy workflow. So over here we have our models and inputs. You're going to set your height and your width here. Okay, I'm going to keep this small so that it can generate fast for what we're doing. Notice you'll see these are going to flow up here to this latent imagey thing, which is going to go over to our case sampler. Okay, where all of the work actually gets done. So you see the flowing. Number of frames, again, we can set this a bit lower just for the sake of speed, but number of frames, again, is how many images you're going to have in a animation, So like, like a flip book or something like that, and you flip it and it starts looking like it's animated. Think of the number of frames like the number of pages in there, right? The more you have, the smoother it's going to look. Okay, then we can get down here. This is our animated diff model. So this is actually what's going to create the animation. So now I've downloaded this MMSD one, but there's different ones that you can get, your temporal diff motion, all this kind of stuff, your stabilized motion. So I'm actually going to be adding several, I'm going to be updating the Gen pack with a few different animated diff models that you can choose from, and you can decide which one is better. Some of them just do different things that other ones don't do. So, but this is the one it comes with. And then you get down here to your checkpoints, and this is where you're going to see your different models that you get depending on if you chose the base or the full. But basically you get Dream Shaper and this one called Sushi Mix, which is an anime sort of thing. So Dream Maker is going to be more your realistic stuff. And then you get your VAE. Now, this is going to be interesting. Depending, as we move forward with this project, depending on which models we use, we're going to have to change our VAE. And basically, in a nutshell, VAE takes a finished image, or takes the image and finishes it, puts the finishing touches on it, or makes it, does some extra stuff to it. If you get the wrong VAE, you could have a good picture going in there, and then it comes out looking like garbage. But you get the right one in there, you put a good image in there, and it comes out looking like, you know, magnifique. And so we're going to play around with that. But you'll notice our checkpoints are models. So this is actually our image model, you know, is going to flow down into our prompts. Okay, now again, with AnimatedDiff, you can only use Stable Diffusion 1.5 models. So this is where you're going to try to use your flux, you're going to try to use your different stuff. It's not going to work. That's what we'll use our Stable Video Diffusion for. But for this one, if you're doing something you want to end up going to Civitai and finding an SD 1.5. But these are both good models. I think the reality model is another SD 1.5. But anyway, you can play around with that. So here we get our prompts. Rose blossoming in space while a supernova erupts in the background. Okay. And then down here we have our, notice it's basically the same thing, clip, text, prompt, but these things do two different things. You notice this one is going up here to a negative prompt, okay? So this one's going to be what we don't want, okay? So that's where we got like things like malformed, deformed, multiple body parts, that kind of stuff. This other one is going out through a conditioning thing, and it's going over to here, and I'll explain what's going on, and then it's popping out up here to the positive. Again, all of our work is going to be done in the sampler. All this other stuff is basically preparing it so that when it gets to the sampler can do its work. Now, these things that are purple, that means that they're bypassed. So imagine if I'm running electricity through something and here's a switch over here that would do something, but what I do is I turn it off. So the electricity is still flowing through it, but nothing's actually happening in it. And it's same like this. This is plugging into here, but because we've got it turned off, it's just flowing back through. The purpose of these are, we're going to use those in a second, are going to be to do two different things. But all having to do with our ControlNet models up here. So ControlNets are ways of forcing images to be in a particular manner. When we run things a normal way, who knows what we're going to get? We're kind of stuck to the whim of our prompt. So we can try to prompt things like woman with her right hand above her head and her left hand on her knee or something like that. And we can try to prompt it, but it's not guaranteed that we'll get it. The ControlNet, we can actually throw in images of somebody with their hand up and their knee on other hand on their knee, and it will force the image to be like that. So these are what we're going to be using for that. We're going to be able to load an image or load a video. It's going to fly into this ControlNet issue here and up. These ones over here are going to actually help us in the future if to create similar things. So let's say we do make a video that we really like. This is going to actually create a map that will make it so that we can essentially be making the same video all the time with slight differences. But for right now, they're blurred out, and I'll show you later how to unblur those. But let's go ahead and create our first animation. So you'll see we come down to our clip, it flows to here, there's nothing going on there, so it flows up to the sampler. And then the sampler, again, this latent image thing up here, this is just grabbing our width, our height, our number of frames, and it's throwing it back out to here, okay? Our seed is just, if you put it onto 0, I think is actually random. Then you'll get something different every time. But like with this, if you keep the number here, you'll get the same video every time. As long as all the prompts and everything are the same, you'll get the exact same thing every time. Set this to 0, you could have the exact same thing and you'll get something different every time. So you can play around with that. And then you've got your number of steps. We can turn this down a bit too. This is going to be a very low quality video. But again, just for the sake of speed. So steps again is like the number of times you go over something. So how much attention is it going to give to building this thing? And we're going to say don't give it very much. Okay. The rest of this we don't need to worry about. The CFG, we can turn that up or turn that down. Again, that's kind of, I like to look at that as our realism scale, but really what it is how much the computer is following the prompt and how much it's, how much leniency we're giving the computer and how strict we're being. So really it's kind of a strict scale. And then it all flows down to this, the VA decode. This is where it puts the finishing touches on it. And then it's going to shoot it out to our video combined. So basically it's going to make a whole bunch of images. We're going to actually see them down here because notice this wire here is actually shooting out to two places. So it's like sending electricity both directions. So we're going to see a series of images, but those series of images are also getting sent up here and they're getting combined into one video, which is going to be our animated diff. So having set everything up, what we're going to do is we can skirt back here and we're just going to hit this Q prompt over here. And now we can see it. It's going to load up the model. Okay. It's going now, wherever it's green, that's what it's working on. So it's grab the animated diff. Now look at it. It's already made it all the way to the sampler. And so now it's putting it together. We can see it in real time. And then now it's flowing down to the DA decode, and there it goes up to the combine, and now it's created this. Okay, so this isn't quite a rose blossoming in space, but it's pretty cool. And then down here you can see the images it made. Now remember, we only used 29 frames, so what do we got? 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got what? 3 times 8 is 8, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. There you go. All right, so that was pretty fast. We could put something else in here. Maybe we could put a skyline over the city. A bird flies. I don't know. And then we can just hit Control Enter, and then it will pop back out here. Now again, the number of steps you use, number of frames you use, is going to make this better quality. Okay, we're very low right now because I want to be able to generate stuff while we're look at that. That's actually really nice. That's way better than that other one. And that's low quality. You could imagine how much better that would be. Okay, so next we're going to play around a bit with the depth crafter. So you'll notice over here, this is purple. This is another video combine. I'm going to right click on that and see it says bypass. I'm going to click that. Now it's undone that. This is the same thing as up here. We've got a video combine here and a video combine here. So what we're going to do is actually undo all of these. So if I could grab this, see how it's blue? I could grab this and go to here, but it would basically do the exact same thing as this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this blue over here. I'm going to click it. Look, I can unwire it. I'm going to put it over here to this depth crafter. Okay, and then I'm going to connect these. Now watch what happens. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to run, and because the seed is the same, we should be getting the exact same video. I'm going to hit Q prompt. Now look at it's actually didn't even bother making it because the seed's the same, but it's clicked down here to this depth map model. So this is going to take a second. The first time this runs, it takes a little bit of time because it has to load the model. But basically, it's going to load this in here. It's going to bring it down to here. Oh, it's going to say it didn't like the size. Okay, so that's an issue of this. Basically, it flows down to here, and then it gave an error because we're in a bad size. So we're going to actually move this up to 512 by 512. So what I did to change this, I just clicked on this and then typed the number and then pressed OK. Now we're going to do it again. Okay, it's going to take a little bit longer now because it's higher dimensions. So we'll go through the K sampler again. We're going to get a little bit different picture, but this time it's going to flow. When it's done, it's going to flow down to here, and it's going to create a depth map of this image. So basically it looks like a bunch of shadows, blurry shadow kind of thing. But then we can feed that back into the machine, and we'll basically be able to create the same similar image, but we could make it at night, or we could, you know, just make it a little bit different. We could make it pterodactyls instead of birds. Okay, so that's done. So it's going to click it out here, combine the video. Okay, so there's the flyover video. Now it's going to go down here to our depth crafter, and you can see that it's loading. You see, because we've got all these wires, it's flowing to all these. Here's the different pieces of the picture that it's been making. Okay, so now look at this. Now it's given us a depth map of that. Isn't that cool? And because the save output is set, it's going to save it. So now what we can do, let's go ahead and disconnect the depth crafter. Whoops. Let's go ahead and disconnect this. So I'm just going to click on it, pull it off, and it's gone. Now let's go over here to this one that says load video. So I'm going to get same thing. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to hit bypass because I want to open it up. And then I'm going to go over here because notice it's flowing to here. Same thing, I'm going to bypass this. Now notice this, which was just using this as a thing to go into and then out of. Now it's actually going to do something. So it's going to send the prompt in here, but we're going to go ahead and load an image. So let's go ahead and we click on choose video to upload. Then you'll go to your folder and you'll click on outputs. Let me show you here what we're doing. Hold on just a second. We're going to rock on over to Electric Avenue here. Okay, so you go to where you've installed your Swarm UI, and now notice when you first click in, there's an output here. But if you click here, that's not going to be where this is because we're in the comfy workflow right now. So if we had been over on the generate page, that's where it would have gone. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to click Swarm UI, then we're going to click this DLB or DL backend, okay? Now here's our comfy installer. See, this should all look familiar. Python embedded comfy UI. Now we can click on output, and there is our depth map, okay? So notice it saved the GIF, but also saved the depth map. So we're going to click that, and that is going to bring us back to over here. And, gosh, sorry, my nose is a little itchy. You know, they say when your nose is itchy, you're going to kiss a fool. So, all right. So, at any rate, so now we've got a depth map. So now we're basically what we're doing is we're saying that we want the thing to force an image that looks like this. Now, up here, this is your load advanced ControlNet map. So you've got a few different ones. We have videos about this if you need to know more about the ControlNet. You got open pose. That's like we're using the stick figure, so you can actually force exact limb position, which is very cool. Your canny and your line art. I think we have line art in here, but basically, again, just different ways of forcing image. We want to choose the depth. Now, this one can stay undone because this is for loading an image. So you can do the same thing with creating a depth map with a single image. Okay. But we're going to use this video. Now we want to prompt it. We've got a skyline over the city, a bird flies. Let's say rainbow colors, it is nighttime and raining. Okay, because those are things that you can't necessarily see in the video, but let's go ahead and see what happens if we press them. So let's go ahead and do this really quick. Okay, so now if we click Q prompt, notice we've disconnected. Okay, so, okay. We disconnected this, but notice it says depth crafter missing one required position or argument images. It doesn't have an image. What we need to do is we need to bypass all of this. So let's do this. We're just going to right click on it and go bypass group nodes. Okay, so now this is out of the mix. So we'll go ahead and Q prompt. Now it's going to go through. Now notice it went through this. It's grabbing that stuff there. And look, it's changed the image, okay? It's using the depth map that we have down there. And it's forcing the image up here. Now, it's taking a little bit longer, you'll notice. Well, actually, okay, we upped it to 512. We could probably, well, we'll keep it there for now. So when you're using your your depth crafter over here,
you've got to stay like in certain ranges, okay? But for the sake of speed, it's nice to turn that down. Okay, but you can see it. There's a rainbow in the back. It's going dark. This is going to look a lot better by the time it combines it. This is part of the going through the VAE decode. That's where it's going to actually make the image look nice. And we'll just wait here one more second. And now it's over to the video combine, and there we have it. Look at that. So our thing was a skyline of the city, bird flies, rainbow colors. It is nighttime. So if we open this preview, right, look at that. It changed it up. Same thing, different image. Very cool, huh? So that was all using our depth crafter, and we did that by right-clicking on these, undoing the bypass, and then we dragged this down and connected it into here. So you can just follow the flow. Connect it to here, which then this flowed to here, which this flowed down to here, and this flew out to the video combine. Okay, so we could do the same thing over here. Let's say that we could do the same thing straight from our prompt over here as well if we wanted. We could take this right to over here. Okay, we could load a video into here. Let's say we have a video like this one, okay, which won't work because of the dimensions. But let's say we just have a video and we say, oh, I'm going to want to use this video and recreate it. Well, we can just disconnect it from here or from there, put it straight into here, and it's going to create a video. Then we would go back to our load video here, just as we did before, choose the depth map, and then reconnect it back up to here. So different ways to get different stuff from here, okay? So there's ways you can go straight from your text as well. So, well, actually we already did. So like when we did our text, we went all the way up to here, and then again, you would just go down to here. And then whatever you text prompted, it would go here. So you can do that every time. Like if you're sitting there working with a bunch of videos and you go, I just want to make sure that I get the correct depth map. And that's how you do it. Now, if you wanted to use an image, let's just right-click this and go bypass this. Then go up here and right-click, go bypass there. Now we would connect that instead. Notice this one disappears. And same thing. Now we would just find a single image that is depth mapped, okay? And we would do basically the same thing. You just throw an image, you know, we could go like this. We could grab this, throw it all the way over to the depth crafter. So it creates whatever image we throw in there. We throw in, you know, let's find a picture here. We throw in this picture. And then now when we run this thing, it's still going to do all this stuff, but it's actually going to create a depth craft over here. And it'll do the same thing. So now this is thrown into the ControlNet. If whatever we type over here, it's going to use this as basically our depth map, and it's going to try to recreate that picture. But over here, because we're flowing to here, we will get a more in-depth one. So you could just throw in a single image that's not been black and whited like that, and it should work fine too. But for more precision, tag it over here. It'll create something up here. Maybe you like it or not, but you will get the depth map down here as well. So let's just go ahead and do that here really quick. I'll show you. So we've got an image in here that we loaded up. So notice that the image is flowing over here to the ControlNet. So instead, like we did, let's drag it over here to the depth crafter. So we're going to need to change our prompt here to correlate with that. But notice it's going to flow over here, and then it's going to create the combine. But it's also going to end up going up here and making a video as well. Now, if we undo this, like say we just want to do this, it's going to cause problems because we basically need to bypass all of this stuff, and that's going to cause issues. So it's just easier to kind of let this stuff run. But what we can do here is let's change this, and we'll just say Pamela Anderson posing with a Ninja Turtle. The turtle is on the left and Pamela is on the right.
Okay, so we can go ahead and create that because that's still going to go over to our advanced ControlNet. So it's going to flow to here, and it's going to make this. Now, there's no real way to flow this back. I suppose we could go there, but this ends up causing problems, as you'll find out. We can try it and see if we can do it all in one step, but I believe this is going to throw an error. But let's go ahead and cue our prompt. So it's going to flow down over into here. And let's check our, yeah, we still got our 512, 512. So remember, the last one we did was with the video. So, and we can see the video over here. When this one gets done, it's going to just be a single image depth map. Okay, and I guess actually that did work. Okay, I'm kind of surprised. Sometimes it doesn't work. So we could have actually changed this. Look at what it's going to do. We could have actually changed this in here. We could make this, let's say, I don't know, who could we make that instead of Pamela Anderson? We could say that's Billie Eilish. I don't know. Let's see if it even knows who that is. Posing with a Ninja Turtle. Let's say with a orange Ninja Turtle. So it's going to go ahead and go do the sampler. Notice it, it's keeping it there. We have this, so we can, this is saved to our drive, so we could always go back over here and then load it up as well. But not, so the reason that this picture is not as nice is because this one was actually made in Flux, and then this one, it's doing it in Dream Shaper. So you could also throw it into your anime or whatever you want over there, as long as it's an SD.1. But let's see what happens now. Let's go ahead, and we don't need it to run this part, so let's go ahead, throw that back into there. We're going to right click here and bypass these nodes again. And now let's just go here and grab the depth map that we just made. If I can find it here, I'll let you be a part of what we're doing here. Hold on. So we're going to go to our Swarm UI. Now remember, it's in the DL backend because we're using Comfy. So now we can go output, and there it is. So we'll grab that, put that back in there. Okay, and now let's see how well it changes it out. So now we're flowing from here directly to here. This has no connections to it, and it's bypassed anyways. So we've changed it to Billie Eilish. Turn it up so it's not going to be Pamela Anderson. I don't even know if it's going to do that. But it all depends on what the model's been trained on. But let's go ahead and cue the prompt. So we're going to run through there. We can see up here we're on our depth map. And the Ninja Turtle should be, well, it's looking more downcast, kind of like she would be, I suppose. The Ninja Turtle's coming out orange. We're waiting for the K sampler to rock on through. And you know what? Let's just pause this for just a second so you don't have to wait. Okay, and so then there it's done, and I guess that's Billie Eilish. I don't know, but there's definitely an orange Ninja Turtle. But notice everything is exactly the same. So if you threw in something like Fred Flintstone, it's not really going to work because it's going to keep the hair and everything that's in that. So there might be ways to add a node here that, or you could change your strength. So you know, maybe we could play with this. Let's turn the strength down to 64 or 66, I guess. All right, and let's see what happens if we pass in Fred Flintstone. And Fred is on the right. Okay, let's go ahead and cue that prompt. Now, you see, the thing is it's going to want to stay with the hair and everything. But we did turn the strength down, so it was at 100%, so it was forcing absolute, it was forcing absolute stuff. Notice even she had stuff on her, that little bump there, and it put something up there to make up for that. So let's go ahead and cue that prompt. Same thing. This is going to be weird. And let's see what happens. All right, and you can see here it didn't really get it. It was kind of confused because obviously this image is not Fred Flintstone, but it did kind of put the face on there. So it's probably trying to figure out between the two of those what's going on. We could turn down the strength even more, but at some point it's like, what does it even matter? Because the whole point of using a depth map is that you want to get what you want on there. So you can see this coming up. It looks like it's going to make the turtle Fred Flintstone, because I've got to assume that's probably the closest to what it is. So we'll wait for this to get done, then we're going to move on to stable video. Okay, this is pretty funny. So, so there is our Fred Flintstone posing with the orange Ninja Turtle, and we turned the strength all the way down to 32. So it's getting closer here, certainly. So you can definitely get some interesting stuff. Notice it kept the hat, whatever that thing is, because again, in the depth map, it's got that there. So I think this is a pretty good idea of how depth mesh works. So just in summary, you set your width, your height, your number of frames. Okay, it's going to flow up to here. This is just it's like something that just kind of passed through, and it's going to send it over to our K sampler, which is our most important thing as well. The work's done. We've got our model, so we could choose all sorts of different stuff, and that flows as well over to the well, actually that flows into this sampler here, which is going to take the model, and it's going to take the animated diff model, and it's going to throw it all into this, and then it's going to send it forward. Here we have our VAE, which does the work on the images after they're created. Same thing, it's going to be flowing over to here and on up. Then we get our clip of what we're actually doing. Fred Flintstone, and it's running over here to our ControlNet and up through here. We're using a depth map still image here that it's working on. And so you notice there's not going to be a lot of image here because it's a single image. We could have also used the video here by unbiasing or bypassing that and connecting it up just like that. We set our ControlNet. Everything flows up into the K sampler, which when it's done goes down to here, up into the video combine, and there we go. And so this is a different video we made using a different checkpoint over here, using our sushi mix. So there you have it. That is AnimatedDiff. And as you guys learn what these things do, you can add stuff to it. You can right click and add nodes, so you can add more loaders. If you want to work with LoRa's, you could load a LoRa, but you'll have to have them downloaded into the correct folders. You can get AnimatedDiff. Let me actually show you really quick over here. If we go over to civitai.com, we can type in AnimatedDiff, or let's type motion modules, and we'll click on view more things. And so you can actually find different, this is I think the one we have here, but you can find your motion trails. Okay, this is a LoRa, so that would go in the LoRa thing. Again, you see LoRa's, here's actual motion model. The temporal diff is one of the ones we had. And if you did want to download those, what you would do is you would just go back over to here, just one moment. If we get that to pop up, come on, there we go. You would just go to your Swarm UI folder. Again, we're not putting it in here because we're using the Comfy. We go to the DL backend, Comfy UI, then we go models. So if you got an animated diff model, okay, like a LoRa, like something actually going to change the way things move, maybe you get motions or this and that, you'd put it in this folder. Okay, if you're just working with changing the way the image itself works, you'd put it in this folder. Okay, you see those. If you get different animated diff models themselves, like that temporal diff, you'd put it in this one here. Okay, and then when you go back to working with this, they'll show up in your different checkpoints or your animated diff models, or like I said, you could add a node and add a loader. Okay, or if you wanted to add an animated diff one, you would click down here on animated diff and you'd load an animated diff LoRa. So you can do that, and then to get rid of it, you just click remove. Okay, so there you go. That's AnimatedDiff. And now we are going to move on with where are we at? We're going to move on with our stable video diffusion. So hang on there. We're going right now. Okay, so for moving on from here, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to load up our new, our other workflows. So we're going to click the load button. That is going to pop up the screen here, which is going to show our different workflows. That's under our Swarm UI. This is where at the top of our thing, and we just click workflows. Then we're going to click ControlNet SVD workflow. Okay, so that is going to pop up this bad mamma jamma. Okay, and now you can see this is the workflow. So we'll pop out so you can see the whole thing. Again, we're moving from left to right. Okay, but we need to zoom in to see what we're doing. Same basic structure here. We were loading a checkpoint. Okay, we've got a VAE, which we're going to need to do the work on the image. This has a LoRa, so again, LoRa has just kind of changed the images in subtle ways that doesn't change the core idea of it, but adds different specialty, like putting a hat on or something, or a special coat, right? And then it's going to run down here. We've got our empty laden images with our width and our height. Our batch size, we could do multiple images. We just need one. But notice all of this is flowing back into our K-sampler. So the K-sampler, when you see that, that means it's actually creating the image. But now we said we go from left to right, but really what we need to do is follow the flow here. So you're going to see these flow down here. They're just going to bypass this because it's purple, right? We could undo it by right-clicking and bypassing, but then we need to have a LoRa in there. But notice it goes, we follow the lines. It goes in here, then it goes out to our text prompt. So this is where we're going to put something, a rose blossoming in space. Okay, here's the negative prompt. So we don't want nudity, yes, and definitely exposed. Usually what I put in here is I don't want something malformed, deformed. You know, sometimes I put weird, you know, just because I don't want it, like putting a nose on this face. I guess that would come under deformed. But malformed and deformed I always put there. But then notice they're flowing back out to the K-sampler, okay? All that stuff. So the positive and the negative. And then there's our width and our height, okay? So this is going to flow out over here to our decoder, which is going to then preview us our image. So we'll see the image here. But notice it's got two of these blues. So it's going to flow on out over here to our conditioner again, okay? And the conditioner, you can see it's got these coming out here. Now notice these are small. That's just because the person that made this workflow was trying to save space. So if you click on this little spot, notice it's going to pop up. Now we can see what the model is. So this is our animated model, our video diffusion model that we're going to use. Okay, the SVD Notice it's flowing out to our conditioner as well. Okay, so up here you can see that you got this other stuff. It's also flowing out to our CFG guidance. Okay, so now with Flux, if you remember, since we're going to start with a Flux model up here, our CFG is going to need to be 1, but we'll come back to that in a second. And so you'll notice I was getting a little messy here, so let's clean these back up. You notice it all flows to here, and then it's going to all flow out to the sampler. Okay, so again, this is where we're setting our steps, our CFGs, all this kind of stuff, and then it's going to flow out to the decoder, and then it's going to combine it and make our video. Okay, now that's how the workflow goes. Okay, and as you're playing with this, you can add stuff into it. You notice we've got this load image over here, but it's not connected to anything because we're creating our image over here. If we wanted to start with an image, what we would do is we would just drag this down to here to initial image. Okay, and notice it gets rid of this. So this will still run, but it won't matter because it's going to come off through here. So what you would have to do is actually bypass all of these if you don't want them to run. I typically don't do that just because it's a pain in the butt to undo them all. So no big deal. I just let it run. Boy, that has kind of got big there, didn't it? Let's see if we can make that a bit smaller. There we go. Okay. So, oh, I see what happened. All right. So anyway, you could, how did this all get, I missed something there. Those all got messed up. Anyway, so you could do a load image there, but we're going to actually go from the prompts. So we're going to go back to here, and we're going to click her back in like that. So let's do our rose blossom in space. Now, this is what's cool about stable video is we can use different models beyond just the 1.5. 5. Okay, so you can pretty much use any model as long as you have the right VAE. So notice we're going to use the Flux quick one, okay, but we have to have the Flux VAE. If we use any of these other ones, they ain't going to work. Okay, like this is the normal one that we would use. We'll probably see some errors in here, and that will show us what to do. So, but for the first one, let's go ahead and do this. Let's see if we can make this a bit smaller here. Let's go back down to 512. Press OK. 512. Okay, and then we set our CFG to 1 because we're using a flux model. All right, let's go ahead and cue our prompt. And again, we can see the prompt over here. So it's going to go ahead and it's loading this. That's just green. That's taking a while because it's loading. Then it will pop down. You'll see it'll go fast. Now we're down to our sampler. So it's actually going to start creating our image. And that's going to come out in a flux image, which means it's going to be really nice. Again, with the animated diff, we wouldn't have been able to do that. We can only use SD 1.5 version, so we use like Dream Shaper, or we use Reality, something like that, which make cool stuff, but they don't make flux stuff. Okay, look at that. So now it's popped it out to here. This is the image that we're going to be working with. We could right-click on that, open it. That's beautiful. Okay, and now it's popped it over to here. And you can see it's already down to our sampler, so it's actually creating the animation. And when it's done, it's going to pop it up to the decoder here. And we'll have an image. So let's just pause this for a second. We're doing a larger, it is a larger image. It's the 512, and it is flux, so there's a lot of pixels, a lot of good stuff there, so it does take a little bit longer. And I'm, by the way, running 24 gigabytes of VRAM, so if you're running 12 or 8, this probably will work, but it's going to take minutes, okay? So you don't have to have a hefty machine, but you do have to have patience. Okay, so we'll pause this for just a second and check on it when it's done. Okay, there we go. So now it did it, and look at there. There's our stable video diffusion. That's pretty nice, and that's really high quality, isn't it? Okay. Now, if we had wanted to change the motion type, down here it says motion bucket. So you could change that down to whatever you want. Like maybe you don't like the shifting, or maybe it's just doing some weird animation. You can play with this. Let's put it down to 20 and see what it does. We'll press OK, and then we'll go ahead and cue the prompt again, which means it's going to do the same thing. It's just going to create another image down here. This is my favorite image generation, by the way, lately. I find this really beautiful. So same thing, we're going to wait for it. It's going to pop up here, and it'll follow the purple or the pink all the way up to the decoder, which is going to preview the image out. Okay, and then it's going to come over here to our sampler. Well, it comes down to our conditioner, gets it all set up, conditions it, right? And then sends it up and says, okay, now it's been conditioned, it's been set. If we want to see the still image, we can right click on it, go to open image. It's beautiful. And that's low quality too. Remember, we're not doing high resolution, so you could really crank up the resolution, and it is pretty. I like that. I'm going to save that. I'm going to right click on that, save that to there. Okay. But same thing. Let's just pause here for a second, and we'll come back and see it when it's done. Okay, and there you go. You're going to see that it's still got some motion here, but it is less. And if we had made the frames more, and then the frames per second less, so basically how this works is you set your target frames. Let's say we've got 24 frames. And frames per second, well, that's only going to be a 3-second sort of thing going on there. So it's only going to make a short video. You can increase your frames and then either decrease your frames per second or increase, whatever. That's how you can figure out how long it is. So divide your frames by your total frame count by your frames per second. That's how long it will be. Another thing you can do, we could have done, is click this ping pong thing, and then what it would do, it would spin, but then it would go back the other way. So it looks like a loop, but here it would look funny because this would turn to the right, then it would turn to the left. But what you can also do with this is just throw it into OpenShot, your open source VideoGen, and just put it on top of each other like this, and you could make it just look like it's moving forever and ever and ever, sort of a thing. But that's really nice, and that's with Flux. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it with another one now. We'll do it with the Dream Shaper that we have there. Now notice we're gonna have to change our VAE. So we was on a Flux one here. We're gonna skip on over here, and let's grab this one, this VAE FTMSE. We've got all our connections going. And if you get the wrong VAE, you're gonna know it, because the picture's gonna, it'll look fine here, but it'll be weird by the time it gets over there. But let's go ahead and cue that up. So it's gonna run through there, create the image. A rose blossoming in space. I'm not sure how that's a rose blossoming in space, unless her name is Rose, but whatever. And so it's going to click through here. And we're just kind of waiting on that. To do its thing as normal. So let's go ahead and pause this and come check on it here in a second. And there we have our thing. So not extremely impressive, but I'm going to show you what happened here. So it's kind of cool. Be better if it was more thing. Of course, we do have it on low steps. But notice this. Our CFG is down at 1. We had that set there for Flux. So let's actually put this up to, let's put it at 6. Okay. Now I think we actually might hold a bit better to that. So let's go ahead and cue our prompt again. Okay, so still not a rose, but at least we've got space. So that CFG has to do with how well it sticks to the prompt. So we had it at very low, and so it didn't follow it. Okay, but now it's falling a little bit better. So we can play around with that. I'm going to show you here when this one's done. I'm going to show you what happens if we put in a wrong VAE. So I'm going to put this over here, and we'll queue it up, okay? So we can hit queue prompt. Now notice the queue size is going up to 2, and if we hit the queue, you can see it here. This is a way you can cancel stuff. In fact, let's just cancel this one out. We don't need to see it. We'll cancel out the one that's working. Oh, that actually VAE. Oh, look at that. Was actually a better VAE than that. That actually made a nicer image. Huh. So you can see how playing with this stuff matters. Let's see what these other ones do. See what happens if we put it on that one. And we'll go ahead and cancel this out. Okay, so that one didn't work. Okay, that one just straight out didn't work. So if you get that, let's show you what that error is again. Expected input. So it's the underlying frameworks aren't matching, right? It's like having a grid like this and a grid like this or something. It's like they don't match. Okay, so you can play around with that. Now sometimes the picture will come through, but it's all wonky. Okay, which is what I was kind of trying to show you. Let's see what happens if we go to Flux and do one with the wrong VAE. Sometimes you get these weird blue images. I don't even think this is going to work. But let's give it a shot, just so you can kind of, it helps with the troubleshooting. So, first of all, notice again, we're back to Flux, but the CFG is still up, so it's not even going to give a clear image. This would have to be at 1. It's definitely going to screw up here, though, by the time it gets over to the VAE. Oh, and there's our error. Okay, so you can see you play around here, you get your checkpoints, and then depending on which checkpoint you get, you got to have the correct VAE for it. Okay, all right, so we'll let that do its last thing there. Going back to kind of a space. Oh, there we go. Look at that. There. So Dream Shaper TAES XDXL made a crap thing. So that's garbage. Okay. So again, we'd have to go up to the correct one. Let's cancel that out and then key prompt. I'm glad that happened. I was wanting to show you one that showed up bad. That's what would happen with the wrong VAE. And then now we're on the correct one. So if you're getting bad images, go back over and change it. Okay. I'm going to cancel this out though. now let's go ahead and show you really quickly how this load image works. So just like our other one, if we want to animate an actual image that already exists, we just load it up. So now this doesn't have a prompt attached to it. It's just going to just kind of willy-nilly do it. So it's kind of hit or miss on how well it's going to work. It might work good, it might not work good. Let's throw this one in there and let's see what it does. That gives it a lot to work with. But notice what we have to do is we've got the image from the VAD code going out here to our initial image. Well, we want this to be our initial image. So we're going to throw that over to there. It's going to erase this. Now, when I hit Q prompt, this is all going to run, but it doesn't go anywhere. So what I could do is I could just right click and I could go bypass group nodes. Now it will bypass everything. But the issue with this is if I want to go back, then I have to go to each one of these and do them by hand. So that's why I don't usually do that. But let's just go ahead and do it. We're going to bypass all of them. We're going to go here. Let's set our motion bucket. Let's set it up to, I don't know. Honestly, just play with it. Okay. It's only going to do a few steps. Okay, let's hit Q prompt. Now watch, it's going to start there. It shoots over, well, it shot down there and then up to our sampler. Oh, look, we should have changed the dimensions. It's okay though. That would have been down here. So even over here, I guess what it was doing was creating a square image and then turning it into a portrait image. Okay, so let's pause this for a second and come back when it's done. Okay, and we can see it's there at the VAD code, going over to the combine. Let's see what it did here. All right, so that's not that exciting. That's just a back and forth. So again, you can find your different models on Civitai, which will hold it. So you're going to probably look for LoRa's to throw in over here. Or, you know, again, you could add them into up here. But one thing we could do is let's try turning the motion bucket down and queuing the prompt again. And I'm going to make this a bit smaller so it goes a bit faster. Let's go 512 by 512. And let's go ahead and queue that again. And usually by scrolling the motion bucket number down, you get rid of some of the back and forth. Okay. And you'll have more of a stable thing. Whether stuff in the background moves or not, you know, I don't know. So let's see here. Oh, there we go. All right, so that did something. So obviously you could play with that a bit more. So it did a bunch at the beginning. Maybe what you could do is throw this into your open shot there, grab the first 1 second and just do a repeat on that over and over again. Right? So again, as you can see, it's not a perfect technology, but it is fun and you can certainly get stuff done with it. I like that beginning. Like I said, throw that into a thing and just have like 12 copies of that. Boom, 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 boom. And then you've got a 12-second video of that just blinking like that. So, all right, that is your stable video diffusion. Again, those are, you just click your load button and you'll find your workflow folder where those are both under there. I think as I mentioned, let's load up the animated diff one again. So as I mentioned, it might be, oh shoot, hold on, just I'm being a goofball here. Hold on just a second here. Okay, so when you do load this up, sometimes on your first install, you might get that message that says that the depth crafter nodes are not found. I'm not certain why it does it sometimes, not others. Again, all you're going to do if that does happen is click on your manager and then click on install missing or custom nodes. Okay, and then you'll just follow the directions of getting that going and then just restart everything. And there you have it. Okay, guys, so we have set you up. You can play with this all you want, adding your different nodes in here. I like playing around, finding clever ways to get the images over to here and then back again. You can play it with all of that just by clicking your right click and going your add nodes. You can look through these, kind of figure out what they're doing. A lot of this stuff we get confused because there's just so much to look at. But if you just stop and take the time to read it and comprehend it, then you'll find that actually it's a lot more easy to comprehend, right? Because sometimes we go into these things and we're just assuming, I don't know. It's like being in another country and you just assume, I don't know the language, right? And so someone starts speaking to you and you're like, I just don't know. But then if you stop, well, hold on, wait, and you pay attention, you're like, oh, he's actually speaking English to me. I've literally had that kind of thing happen before. You assume they're speaking some other language, and then, oh, no, he's actually speaking English. Oh, I'm sorry. And it's a lot like that with this. We kind of assume that we don't understand it, but if you just stop and read it, then, oh, it actually is not that complicated, right? The biggest hurdle we have is our hurdle of believing that we can comprehend this stuff. So there you have it. Animated diff, stable video diffusion. We're going to be updating this pack. We're going to have several motion modules in here for you to play around with. You could tell me which one works best, which one you like the best. You've got Civitai over there, so you could be getting all sorts of stuff to back it up with over there. And dude, you are on the path to making stuff. Playing around with the ControlNet, okay? Watch my other video. I've got another video about how the ControlNets work. Figure out OpenPose. OpenPose is so cool. You use like basically stick figures. You put them in whatever position you want, and it will literally create a person, in whatever position you put them, like this, like this. However, and that's going to be easy for you to use this workflow once you kind of get that going. And we do actually, by the way, I guess I should mention. Over on the Patreon site, I do have a bunch of depth maps and ControlNet images over here that you can actually just purchase if you want to get going with that. So actually, if you go over to the shop, and some of these are actually free for members, but you'll scroll down and you'll find here, look at like this mega activity pose pack, okay? So this has, look at over 1,300 different poses. You can just throw those in there, and this is all set up to use. And I believe that these two are free for members. This is free for, this one has 45. These are free for our Prairie Dog members. I think this is free for our Farmhand members. And then this one's just like $1 extra, and you get 1,300 different models from all over the place. You get depth models, you get open pose, canny, everything on there. So that's a really fun way to play around with this stuff. So on that note, we're going to leave you. Guys, enjoy the VideoGen pack. This is exciting. I'm going to be honest. It's taken me months to really get to a place where I could feel like, I can actually generate some stuff. Because I don't want to say it's a hard-kept secret, but it's not exactly the easiest thing to get going. And it's taken a long time. I mean, I try, and then you get distracted into other stuff. But this is very simple. And with all of this, you also get the Swarm UI, and then that means you can be installing the Mochi image stuff too. So you got it all in this thing. So you're very welcome. Shake your hand. You are very welcome. Enjoy the animated stuff and share your safe for work stuff with me. I'd love to see it. Come over the Discord and show what you're doing. And in the meanwhile, you stay good, and we will catch you on the other side. Yo.